evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Paul Brown Show. We're taping live at 2Expose UX Studio. We have Mr. Darryl Goodman, the founder, and Mr. Ray Harvey, the chief engineer. And today, as my guest, I have Miss Tyanna Evans. She's the founder of Evans Counseling and Consulting, LLC. How you doing there, Miss Evans?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for coming on the show. Tell the audience a little bit about Tyanna Evans.
So I was born and raised in Carolina, specifically Spartanburg, where I went to University of South Carolina for my undergrad and graduate education. Upon completing the program, I temporarily moved to Charlotte, and the interesting thing is that I said that's where I was going to live, that's where I was going to stay, I was going to live my best life there. And then somehow I found my way back home to South Carolina. So I've been back now for approximately 6 years, and it's been nothing but good to me and my family.
Evans Counseling and Consulting. Tell us a little bit about your counseling service, ma'am.
Yes, so Evans Counseling and Consulting is a multi-specialty practice where we offer services for their post-accident and personal injury clients. We also offer stress management, which is especially important right now during COVID-19. And we offer premarital counseling. It's pretty key and important in those who are pursuing marriage.
What made you want to start your business?
Well, I definitely identified that there was a need here in Columbia, South Carolina, which is where my practice is located in the downtown area, for those who needed services. It is hard to be able to connect with other mental health providers due to them being overwhelmed already by their own caseloads or limited access. So I definitely wanted to be able to provide more access to community resources by opening my own practice and helping those who are seeking help.
Now, I know I talked to some of my audience prior to the show, and they want to ask some questions about some of your areas. One of the areas is your premarital counseling. One of the questions that they ask is, once the date has been set as far as the marriage, when should someone or the couple start seeking counseling?
I believe the sooner the better, because there is quite a lot of processing to do, because when you think about it, it's two completely different individuals coming together to merge as one. People with different backgrounds, people with different family history, expectations. So it can be quite overwhelming to merge together. It does take some adjustment. So I definitely would recommend that those who are engaged in seeking marriage definitely start as soon as possible.
Another question someone had as far as premarital counseling is, do you suggest HIV testing by each member prior, or should they do it together, or what's your suggestion on that?
That is a very good question. So I definitely don't think it's a bad thing to go ahead and have some type of medical screening just to make sure that both parties are in superb health. The worst that could happen is that the test results don't come back positive, or when they do come back positive, and then there has to be some difficult situations and conversations that have to occur. But I definitely think that it's good, and it further validates the trust that you all have for one another.
If there is one of the members of the couple, if there's some type of resentment as far as wanting to consent this testing, do you think there may be some type of issue as far as one trusting the other?
I believe that if there is some pushback regarding the other partner not wanting to test. It's important to kind of process that together. It's important to explore what is their reservations or hesitations, and then once that has been determined, working through that and following through with it. Because I'm sure there's something as to why they don't feel it as necessary. And in order to be able to move past it, it does need to be addressed.
Another big thing that, a question that one of my guests had was as far as the finance. Why is that such a big issue in marriages these days?
Yes, finance is among the top two reasons that divorce happens. When you're merging finances, that's a very, very tricky and delicate discussion to address. People are very possessive. You know, what's mine is mine, and what's yours is yours. Honestly, whatever works for the couple is what should happen. So I'm not saying that you have to merge accounts, but you have to do what's in the best interest of both parties. If both parties agree to a joint account, great. If both parties agree to separate accounts, that's fine as well. And if both parties agree that there's an account just for the bills that they share and then they have their own separate accounts, that's great as well. As long as it works for both parties are in agreement. But finances is a very delicate and sticky situation, and that's definitely something that's addressed in premarital counseling.
Who do you feel should handle the financial aspect of it? Because both persons really can't handle that part of it.
Right. Well, that is not for me to determine. So what happens is that, excuse me, what happens is that there's a discussion that is held in session between the both of them as well as the counselor. We discuss people's strengths and weaknesses. And generally, whoever is more organized, whoever has a better understanding of cash flow, that is the individual that usually steps up and says, you know, I'll take responsibility for the finances and making sure everything is paid, everything is balance. But I do not make that decision for them. That is something that I help them to come to an agreement on.
What if there's a resentment from the other person as far as, you know, you don't trust me as far as handling the finance, because remember, they have been handling the finances being single, and they kind of like feel like it's a resentment that you don't trust me if we're together as a couple.
Well, it's not really a matter of trust. It's a matter of who is more comfortable and who can perform and manage it better. Trust is it goes both ways. It's I have to trust you to be able to manage this money that is ours now, because it's not just yours, it's not just mine, it's ours now. And it's trust that I am going to step back and say, you know what, you are responsible for this, so I'm not going to constantly hound you or go behind you or double check behind you to make sure that this is happening. I trust you as my husband, or I trust you as my wife to make sure that business is handled regardless. So it does require trust on both ends. It's not just one trusting the other.
Now, I know credit score is a big thing these days. Should they look at each other when it comes to that credit score, and should that be a factor as far as them getting married?
Credit score is something important to look a little further into, because it just gives you a good idea of where you all stand together, and where there is room for some growth, and coming up with a calculated business plan on how you tend to improve if one of the partners have a lower credit score than the other, or you know, who is going to put whatever big purchase in their name. So it is important to look at that aspect, the credit score, and then work together with it. Now, do I believe that it should be a determining factor on if you should move forward with that partner or not? I don't agree with that, because a credit score isn't something that's permanent. It can be worked upon. And if both parties are willing to give each other time and the patience and learn how to improve, then I don't think that should be a determining factor.
Okay, another area that you specialize in is personal injuries. Why is that such an important area for someone to seek counseling on?
Oh, absolutely. So when a personal injury or an auto accident occurs, mental health is definitely underdiagnosed. And a lot of people actually suffer from residual symptoms such as the diagnosis of PTSD or acute stress disorder, or some type of phobia is underdiagnosed. So as soon as that happens, I like to work with attorneys and their clients to get that addressed. So moving forward, they can have a more productive life and they're not troubled by the symptoms that they develop because of that injury or accident.
Okay, some people, when they are at fault, have a tendency not to seek that medical or that counseling because of the financial aspect of it. What advice do you give them?
Well, removing the shame and the guilt, because we all make mistakes. We haven't all lived a perfect life. And so it takes you stepping outside of yourself to say, you know what, I made a mistake, but I still recognize that I need help. So I'm not dealing with the shame and the guilt that's surrounded by it. And if they do have limited resources, there's always Columbia Area Mental Health, who has a sliding scale fee that could work with you to get the services that you need.
Now, 2020 has been a very strange year. Why should we seek counseling for this year? Because this is a year that a lot of us has never seen. There's a lot of things has happened.
It's a lot of firsts for a lot of people. Unprecedented times. The climate right now of the nation is very stressed. It can be very gloomy, very doom feeling. COVID, having to isolate yourself and be less social, which most human beings are social individuals. We like interacting and engaging, and what we're being asked to do is to withdraw from the things, the people that we love to interact with. So stress management during this particular era is so important. And it's important to keep connected, even if it's virtually, with the things that make you happy, with the things that keep you motivated, with the things that continue to give you hope.
Another question that I was presented with was, when I was growing up, policeman was looked at as person of being trustworthy, someone that I would look forward to protect in my community. Now, as we see images of them hurting individuals in our community, and we're seeing it on video, how do we explain this to our youth?
That is a very good question. And it takes having those difficult conversations with your youth to understand that what is going on is troubling. It's disappointing. It is tiring. It is hurtful. But not all is lost. There's still very much hope in it, and having a conversation no longer is, just comply and everything will be okay. That's no longer the answer. And so now you're having to go in a little more depth as to what needs to be done. And the real answer is, policy change. Our youth have to get involved. Our youth have to understand that it's not enough just to, work a simple job. You have to advocate now for your rights because no one else is going to do it for us. So having that conversation with them to become these leaders, to become these judges, to become these politicians, to become these law officers. That's what's needed in our community. We need more representation in people who can influence change.
So when I look at this policeman, when I'm in trouble, when I look at this policeman, will this be the policeman that I see as the one that's going to protect me, or is this going to be one of the policemen that I have seen in videos that is going to hurt me?
So trying to decipher if your safety is at risk or this is someone who's actually here to protect you. And there's no way to actually predict that. There isn't. So I can understand that being a constant question, especially if you're pulled over, and the officer is getting out of the car and you're like, okay, is this a good one or is this a not so good one? And there's no way to determine that. But what we can do, because we can only control us and our actions, is to at least try to enter it with an open mind. And then from there, you can better evaluate the situation. You can better evaluate your safety and the risk, and then make a decision from there on how to proceed.
I know a lot of times, as far as our youth, we see when we're in school, you see the different nationalities playing together. We're in class and all, but then again, we look on TV, we see hatred. How do we, separate that?
One bad apple can't spoil them all. And you may say, oh, well, there's a lot of bad apples. And that is true, too. There's a lot of bad apples, but there's still very much good and positivity that surrounds us. And that's where our energy and our focus has to go into the things that actually add to our lives. And so you can't become too overwhelmed by what's going on, in the world. And I always recommend people to limit their daily intake of the news, limit your daily intake of your social media, because a lot of times there's only spotlight given to what's wrong with the world, what's going on with the world that isn't so good. So I recommend that you decrease your intake of the media and then increase your intake of these positive things, the positive people, and sometimes you do have to look pretty hard for it, but it's out there.
In 2020, with the coronavirus, and now we're starting the schools back up, where some schools are going back into the building and some are virtual learning. How do we get our children mentally prepared to go into these buildings when they're telling them that the coronavirus is still alive?
It's key to understand and to remember that we are only in control of but so much. We can't control everything, no matter how good our hygiene practices are, cleaning practices are. There's always going to be a risk, no matter where we go. Even if it's running to the store, if it's going to school, if it's getting gas, there's always a risk that's there. So the best thing that you can do to lower your exposure, lower your risk, by continuing to do the things that you've been doing, such as properly washing your hands, making sure you remain with a mask on your face, limiting the things that you touch, maintaining social distancing. The threat is going to be here for a while, unfortunately, but we can start to contain it to some degree only by what we practice and what we do. And so we can't constantly live in fear. Fear is disabling. Fear will keep you from doing and experiencing and enjoying life and living. So if we continue to live in, oh, if I do this, then this is going to happen, then you're not really living to begin with. So you control only what you can, what you can control, and that's it.
we have these two political parties that seems to be fighting among each other, and they're using this coronavirus as a means of separating the people. You have one party, the Republicans, saying the coronavirus isn't that bad. You don't need masks. You don't need this and that. And you have the Democratic Party saying wear masks. I mean, Donald Trump is saying, President Trump is saying, you don't have to wear masks. We don't, and then you have the Democratic Party saying wear masks. So it's like, it's so conflicting. Who do we trust? We're living in the same, we're living in the same country.
Right. At the end of the day, the facts are facts. Do I believe that some of this is possibly politically motivated? Absolutely. But it's important to also do your own research. You can't take everything that you're told, everything that is relayed to you as factual. You have to do your own research and do what you feel is in the best interest of you and your health, as well as the health of everyone around you, especially with this being as contagious as they are making this or making us to believe. It is important to do your own research and evaluate the risk.
What makes Evans Counseling and Consulting the best counseling and consultant agency in the country?
We are human. We are human. We are not without fault. And we are here to help you. What I believe, what my clinician and we believe in a very humanistic approach, where we're very non-judgmental. Everybody has their challenges, everybody has their struggles, and we're not here to judge you on it. We're here to help you become the best possible image of yourself and set goals that you determine for you and help you achieve them. We want you to win. We want you to love who you are. We want you to be comfortable in the skin that you're in. We want you to be the best possible version of you. That's what makes us the best. We're here to help. And if we can't help you, we will certainly refer you to someone that we believe can. We're not ashamed to say, you know what, maybe this is too big for us. And we'll get you the help that you need. We're not the greedy kind of practice that wants to keep you if we don't see that there's some type of progress going, or if you're not comfortable with us. It's nothing personal, because we're here to help.
And why is that so important, that you and your staff is so important about the welfare of your client?
It's so important for us to really be invested in their well-being, because they trusted us to come here, to make the call, to make the appointment. And that's the biggest step to overcome. First is just admitting that, maybe I need a little help. Maybe I need a little assistance. Maybe I need some navigation and guidance because I'm really struggling. So if you're trusting us to help you, we have to show up for you. We have to make sure that we're doing everything we can possible to help you out. And we don't want to judge, because the judging and the shaming, it doesn't help. It only makes therapy and counseling more taboo. Well, you're going to counseling because you're crazy. Counseling is not for crazy people. Counseling is for those who just need a little more assistance, a little more help. It should be just as normal as going to your doctor for a checkup. So you're going to counseling for a mental checkup. What's going on in your head? What are you thinking about lately? What are you struggling with? And let's devise a plan to help you overcome and conquer that.
Some people, they seek suicide as a means of solving their problem. Why do you think that they should seek counseling prior to even going into that last resort of suicide?
Suicide, you have to be in a very, very dark and dim place to consider it. And that is the biggest cry for help. And it is important that they seek help before, or even at the beginning of having thoughts of death. Not even suicide, just thoughts of death being, oh, well, the world would be better off without me. My family would be better off without me. My kids would be better off. The minute you start having the slightest thought of leaving this earth, is so important to intervene and get the counseling help that's needed so you can see and better understand that you are of value still, despite whatever circumstances going on in your life. You still have something to contribute. You're still valuable. You're still worthy. And sometimes it takes somebody from the outside who doesn't know you to help you understand that and to get you there. Suicide is very unfortunate because there's still so much more life to live. There's still so much more to give at any age.
Why is confidentiality so important in your counseling?
Confidentiality is very important because you are trusting us with your deepest and your darkest secrets. And we are here to protect that. We are obligated by law to protect that. And there are some serious consequences if there is a breach in your confidentiality. So we take your privacy very seriously.
So if someone wanted to know more information about Evans Counseling and Consulting, how would they go about contacting you?
Yes, so there's several ways that we can be contacted. The first is picking up the phone and giving us a call at 803-567-0064 and scheduling an appointment. We can also be contacted through email at info@evanscounselingllc.com. And we're also on social media. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram and LinkedIn. You can reach out to us that way and someone will get back.
If you had one more advice that you can give our viewing audience, what would you like to say?
I would like to say that it's okay to be authentically you. It's okay for you to have your good days and your not so good days. It's okay to ask for help. You can't be too consumed by what people think of you or what people say about you, because at the end of the day, only you know your journey, only you know who you are authentically are.
Thank you for Ms. Evans and Evans Counseling and Consulting for coming on the show, and look forward for seeing you come back. Thank you
for having me.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for watching the show. Visit www.toexposeyou.com. Thank you for watching the show, and you be encouraged. Thank you.